KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet and I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis. The late Patti Fink is running late. She will be with us.
She'll be with us.
She will be with us. Good. We have on the phone with us, she's only going to be with us a few minutes. We have Lesléa Newman. She's the author of October Morning and Heather Has Two Mommies. That's her first, not her first, but her best known, her most recent, and she's going to be here in town this week. Leslie, are you there?
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. I am looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. Leslie is going to be at DISH. It's Friends of the Dallas Library and Friends of the Oak Lawn Library that are bringing her in. DISH is right across the street from the Oak Lawn Library. It's at 6:30, yes?
I think the doors open at 6:30, and then it actually starts at 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, according to the press release, that's right. That's what you sent me, Leslie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. You were supposed to be our guest for the hour, and then you were changing your flight, but because of all this crazy weather, and by the way, talk about crazy weather, it was 80 degrees here yesterday, and it's in the 20s today.
Yep.
Wow.
So dress accordingly, whatever that is. Tell us a little bit about, you're going to be reading from October Morning, right?
Yes, in fact, what I'm going to be doing is giving a PowerPoint presentation about my time in Laramie, which was in 1998. I was the keynote speaker for Gay Awareness Week, and I arrived on campus the day that Matthew Shepard died. And so October Morning, a song for Matthew Shepard, is my response to that hate crime.
So you're going to do some reading. People will be there to ask questions. I know Lerone is going to be there. His favorite book is Heather.
Of course.
I will bring some copies of Heather.
This is Heather's 50th anniversary, isn't it? 50th,
Oh, no.
25th anniversary. I'm
not
really
that
dating
old,
you.
David.
Sorry. But it is Heather's 25th anniversary. You're re-releasing it, right?
Yes, it's actually coming out next year in 2015 with brand new illustrations, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so what I still have in my basement are cartons of the 10-year anniversary edition. So after those are gone, the only copies that will be available will be the ones with new illustrations.
So if Heather is 25, seems like she shouldn't be calling them mommy anymore, and she should be married by now and having little lesbians of her own.
She should.
Okay.
So her children can have a myriad of grandmothers.
Uh-huh.
How do you know she turned out to be a lesbian?
I don't know she turned out to be a lesbian. I'm saying she should be married and having little lesbians.
Okay, all right.
I hope she turns out to be happy. That's all I wish
There
for.
you go.
Of course.
Yeah, same thing I wish for my little...
Of course. What are you working on right now?
Right now, I have a couple of things in the works. I have a poetry collection for adults called I Carry My Mother, which is a book-length series of poems about my mom's illness and death and then my grieving process. And then for kids, I have a couple of books coming out. One is called Here is the World, A Year of Jewish Holidays. And one is called Ketzel, the Cat Who Composed, which is actually based on a true story about a cat whose composition won a piano solo contest. And then another book called My Name is Aviva, about a little girl who doesn't like her name.
Oh.
But her name means spring.
Exactly.
We're running out of time. I want to just go back to October Morning again. It's a book of poetry. It's about Matthew Shepard, which seems kind of a downer. But I love this. I love the poems in this book.
Yeah, it's beautiful poetry. We read some of it last time she was on.
Yeah. Is this thing that we're doing on Thursday, is it for mostly adults? You think kids will enjoy it?
Well, the book is for 14 and up, so I would say adults and teens. And I have to say that even though, of course, it's a tragic and terribly sad story, I do end with a message of hope.
Right.
And actually, going back to Heather Has Two Mommies, actually, that's not, excuse me, that's not my favorite book by Lesléa. My favorite book by Lesléa is Donovan's Big Day.
Oh.
And if I could bring that, would you sign it for me?
I would be so happy to sign it for you.
I love that book.
Donovan's Big Day is a children's book for children of all ages about a little boy whose two moms get married, and the whole book takes place on the day of their wedding.
And he's getting ready, running around trying to get ready.
He's a little hyperactive.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Great. Okay, so Lesléa, you're going to be elsewhere in Texas first, which is why you were about to fly out today, and your flight changed, which meant that you couldn't be on, got canceled, and
right.
Yeah. So where else are you going to be in Texas?
I am going to be at Southwestern University on Tuesday at 4, and then I'm going to be at Bookwoman in Austin on Wednesday evening at 7:30.
Great. And then here on Thursday, Dish. Show up sometime 6:30 to 7. They're asking for reservations. Do you have that number by any chance?
I don't. I didn't know they were.
Yeah, well, not really reservations, but an RSVP, just because it's in a restaurant, so they want to make sure there are enough seats that are reserved for it. But it's Thursday evening. It's, I don't think it'll be a problem. If you go to DallasVoice.com, you can find a little thing about Lesléa coming next week and the phone number to call for reservations. And it's to RSVP. It's not really reservations, just to RSVP to make sure that we have seats for you and that there are enough seats. Lesléa, I'm looking forward to seeing you. We'll have dinner.
We will definitely have dinner afterwards, and it will be great.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. See you Thursday.
All right, bye.
And our guest today in the studio is Arnold Wayne Jones. Arnold is an author of a book of trivia about the Oscars, and so he is my best authority on the Oscars.
Yes. I've been wondering when you're going to have a part 2.
I've been wondering that too. You might want to call up HarperCollins and tell them, let's do a part 2.
We should, because that one came out.
You wouldn't do it on spec?
It came out in '97. Well, I suppose they probably still own the rights to the first half of it, so I could only do the...
Oh, so you can't do it?
I would have to... I could do an update, but I'd have to check my contract, actually. Maybe I could reprint the entire thing.
I think you should.
Yeah, I don't think Lerone's talking about reprint. He's talking about trivia since then.
Right, but
yeah.
It would just be from '97 on, so you would want to include the old stuff and update it.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about a newer,
like a new edition.
New edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Oscars
like with new children's drawings for the 25th anniversary, as some people do.
So the Oscars are tonight.
They're tonight on ABC. Yes. Can't wait here.
So what's gay? Ellen.
Ellen's the host. It's funny if you go through. To me, part of the fun of like analyzing this stuff like for a gay audience is that like one of the films nominated for documentary short. First of all, the best category in the entire Oscars this year is the documentary short films. Every one of them is like beautiful and devastating. I mean, I was just crying the entire time watching all of them. But one of them is called Facing Fear, and it's about a guy who was gay bashed by a skinhead 20, 30 years ago, and the gay guy ends up working for the Museum of Tolerance in L.A., and the skinhead is reformed and comes in, and they realize they know each other, and it's about like befriending your attacker. It's
oh, that's interesting.
It's really, really good, and then little stuff like Owen Pallett is nominated for score for her. He's a co-nominee for score, and then of course the Dallas Buyers Club has a transgender character in it, and Ellen's hosting, and Pink is performing,
and it's about the gay community in Dallas, basically, during the AIDS crisis.
It is, yes.
Now, isn't there a slight gay point in what is it, Philomena?
Philomena, yeah, that has a gay subplot,
right,
which is revealed about halfway through, and so they didn't put it in the marketing materials, but it's a really good twist, and it's a lovely movie. That's actually my favorite actress. That was one of my top. Well, the funny thing this year, and this just show you how competitive it is. Of the 9 films nominated for Best Picture, 8 of them appeared in my top 20 list. I mean, this was a very good year for the Oscars to pick good things. And the one that didn't, American Hustle, which I didn't really care for, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it with the passion that I hated David O. Russell's last film, Silver Linings Playbook, which came out last year. Which it's terrible. If Catherine Cuellar is listening, yes, Catherine, we can commiserate over how much we hate that movie together. Every time we see each other, it's like, oh, we hate that movie. But yeah, Philomena has a great plot device in it. Then you have all those men in the Hobbit running around together. That's where it's very suspicious to me.
So what about the Lego movie?
The Lego movie is a 2014 release, so
and probably won't be nominated.
It could be nominated for animated feature. It's doing very well, and I haven't seen it, but I hear
it's great.
That it's really entertaining.
You asked this because it has a gay subplot or something?
It's the only movie I know.
It's the only movie he knows.
Do you know? I haven't kept up over the last year real well. The only movie that I saw, Arnold, you said of the 120...
There are 121 nominations this year, and I've seen 118.
Of them. 118 movies.
No, not 118 movies, 118 nominations.
Oh, okay.
Out of 57 movies. And I've seen 54 movies, which total, because Gravity got 10, American Hustle got 10, totaled up to... so the only 3 movies I haven't seen yet.
I've seen 1. Have you seen many of them?
No, I have not.
I've seen about 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll ask the intelligent questions here.
Well, 25 of them are hard to see because they're the short films and the foreign language films and the documentaries, and they're harder to come.
I've seen many more films over the year. They just didn't get nominated. Like, I was surprised. Well, not totally surprised, but a little. One of the Arnold and I was just talking about this. One of the films that it was expected to get a lot of nominations got completely shut out, which was the movie Lee Daniels' The Butler.
Yeah.
Not one single nomination, and it got a lot of early buzz.
Including for Oprah.
And I was glad she didn't get nominated. and nothing against Oprah. I love Oprah, but I just hate, I hate when things are hyped up, and when I see it, and it doesn't live up to the hype.
You know, that's one of the advantages of being a film critic, is that you get to see the movies before you've heard the hype. And so, for example... I loved Forrest Gump. I saw Forrest Gump at a press screening about 10 days before it was released in July of 1994. And that is the last time I have seen Forrest Gump. I really liked it. I was happy it won Best Picture that year, even over Pulp Fiction, because I thought it was a remarkable achievement in terms of like its special effects, and including that as special effects without becoming a special effects movie, like an action picture.
Yeah, and the way they put Tom Hanks into
things, it was revolutionary for its day, and I really liked it. Yeah. But I haven't seen it since then, and then you see people who saw it in August of 1994, and they're like, or they see it after it wins 6 Oscars, and they say, it just was as good as I expected it to be. And it's like, well, how could anything be as good as you expect it to be once you've been told for months and months that it's phenomenal and earth-changing?
Some things live up to the hype, but I see what you're saying.
I was actually, interesting enough, just talking to my mother this morning, and she was saying that it seemed like everybody either loved or hated Gravity, and I said, that may be the case. I have not met any of the haters. Everyone I know who's seen Gravity loved Gravity, especially if you saw it in the theater, in 3D. I didn't see it in IMAX, but I imagine that would be even better.
I don't think Amy Poehler liked it.
I don't know.
That was the big joke about.
Oh no, that was it. It was that she didn't like it. It was the joke was Gravity, a movie about how George Lucas would prefer to die. George Clooney would prefer to die in outer space alone than to spend 20 more seconds with a woman his own age.
That was a well done joke.
It was the best joke of the evening by far, but yeah, it's one of those movies that I think is it's phenomenal. I mean, you watch that movie and you don't know how they did it, which leads into one of the categories, which is Best Director. I think Alfonso Cuarón is like a lock to win the Best Director Oscar for Gravity, because he reinvented so many little techniques of how you do things to make this movie. Now, that's happened before where they haven't won the Oscar, and a good example of that is James Cameron for Avatar. But he did win for Titanic, and I think Avatar also had the misfortune of coming out the same year as his ex-wife's movie, The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
And I think there was a big push to finally recognize a female director.
She's the first female
to win Best Director. But I don't know that just because it'll win Best Director, it necessarily means that the movie will win Best Picture. I think most of the my thinking about it, and something I just heard this morning on someone else and a friend of mine who emailed me yesterday, is that 12 Years a Slave will win Best Picture because it's about serious ideas as opposed to serious filmmaking. Although, interesting thing about last year, the reason Argo won, Argo beat out Lincoln. I think it's generally believed that it beat out Lincoln for Best Picture. Lincoln was a movie about how great America is, and Argo was about how great movies are, and movies save lives. We pretend to make a movie and we end the occupation of people in Iraq, which is stupid. But I mean, all
you have to do is point to the electorate in the Oscars.
Well, exactly.
The electorate is the people who vote are the people who make movies.
Exactly.
They want to be portrayed as heroes.
And so there may be an inclination for them to say, hey, this might be the future of the way we make movies with Gravity. Let's give it to show, yes, we recognize.
What are some of the things that he did that were innovative?
Well, basically, it's a movie set almost entirely in a gravity-free or a weightless environment, and he created a system of filming it that allowed it to seem like people were actually in outer space. The first, I think I counted the first 19 minutes of the movie, I counted 3 hard edits.
Wasn't that done when they made up that video that showed that we had landed on the moon?
Exactly. Well, yeah, it was so badly done 45 years ago that they say that
they had to update it.
You have to update it. Yeah. But no, the first about 20 minutes of the movie, there are only 3 hard edits, meaning a place where you can actually see the film cut and then pick up another piece of film and from a different angle. And largely that's because it was done digitally. I mean, a lot of that movie was filmed inside the camera. But the technology is phenomenal, and I think the brilliance, sort of like Forrest Gump, is that they've gotten the technology to the point where you don't recognize it as technology, where you're amazed at how they do it. But if someone had said, no, they shot it in outer space, you would believe them.
We need to take a break. Our guest is Arnold Wayne Jones of the Dallas Voice. He's talking about the Oscars, which are tonight. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink and Lerone Landis. We'll be back with more right after this.
KNON thanks you for your pledge to our recent pledge drive. Now it is time to make your pledge count. Be sure to send it to KNON 5353 Maple Avenue, Dallas, Texas 75235. If you missed our pledge drive, you can still support community radio by donating online at knon.org. Your pledge only counts if you pay it. KNON 5353 Maple Avenue, Dallas, Texas 75235. Be sure to include the name of the show you are supporting. For questions about the pledge drive, 214-828-9500, extension 234.
Big Bill Morganfield is coming back. That's the son of blues legend Muddy Waters coming to Dallas for one night only in a big KNON blues event Saturday, March 22nd at Poor David's Pub. Big Bill Morganfield celebrates and honors his father with a deep Chicago blues style, telling his own stories through original songs with a wide variety of style, fiery slide guitar, and singing. Big Bill Morganfield has a blues power that is all his own. Joining Big Bill Morganfield will be the Super Kings. Join us for this very special blues event. Tickets available now at knon.org. That's Saturday, March 22nd, Big Bill Morganfield with the Super Kings at Poor David's Pub. Poor David's Pub is located at 1313 South Lamar in Dallas. Big Bill Morganfield, Saturday, March 22nd, Poor David's Pub.
This is Jake Winters from Leicester, England, and I listen to Lambda Weekly on Knon 89.3 FM.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. And
we're talking about the gay Super Bowl, the Oscars.
The gay Super Bowl.
Tonight on ABC. But let's jump into some categories. Starting with the Best Supporting Actress, which is usually the first award given out.
They usually kind of, sometimes they bandy back and forth between supporting actor and supporting actress, but yeah, it's usually one of the first or second awards to put a little bit of glamour up front, to get a face that people recognize, because they hold off actor, actress, director, and picture until the last half hour or so. But yeah, the nominees this year for supporting actress are Lupita Nyong'o in 12 Years a Slave, Sally Hawkins from Blue Jasmine, Woody Allen film, Julia Roberts from August Osage County, Jennifer Lawrence from American Hustle, and June Squibb from Nebraska. And that one to me is an easy call, like who I would vote for, which is June Squibb in Nebraska. She's 84 years old. She just turns that movie into the funniest. It's just a balls to the wall kind of a performance, and from someone known as a stage actress. In fact, I saw her at the Dallas Theater Center about 2 years ago during the Horton Foot Festival.
Now, you're saying no. Hands down, she wins.
No, I'm not saying hands down she wins. I'm saying hands down, that's who I would vote for.
That's who deserves it. Who's going to win?
Who's going to win?
I think it's going to be Lupita Nyong'o. She's kind of like the hot property right now.
She is, but I would be floored if she did win. I thought she was great.
Yeah. I think that's the indication, though, that 12 Years a Slave, it really is in the running for Best Picture.
Yeah.
And going back to, how films sometimes do or do not live up to the hype, that one lived up to the hype for me.
And I think that the two people who are certain not to win, I don't think there's been much buzz about them, are Julia Roberts and Sally Hawkins, both of whom were very good, although I would have probably nominated Margot Martindale in August Osage County over Julia Roberts.
I just read the most scathing review of her performance in that, like a few days ago. Julia Roberts.
Her performance wasn't bad, but what they did with her character was kind of annoying. The play ends with the mother being kind of like left alone, and the movie ends with that, and then it cuts to Julia Roberts driving in her car and stopping by the side of the road and considering going back and reconnecting with her mother, and is she going to or not? And it's like, I can't blame Julia Roberts for that moment. Somebody made that decision.
No, I do.
But it was just kind of like a real cop-out to make the movie seem more accessible. And if that's the way you're going to make your movie accessible, is like that one shot of Julia Roberts at the end, your movie has more problems than that. I didn't think it made a difference.
Best Supporting Actor.
But I think what going on. But I think Jennifer Lawrence is a possibility. And this is the thing: only 3 actors have ever won consecutive acting Oscars. A couple of other people in other categories have won: film editing and directing and writing and so on and so forth. But what's interesting about the 3 that have won is not only have all been in leading roles, but all have been both leading roles. And if Jennifer Lawrence wins, she won Best Actress last year. She's nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She'd be the first actor or performer to win in consecutive years in different categories.
And before the show, we were talking about this a little bit. Also, she'd be the first one, just in their 20s, to do this.
Right. We're talking about the lineup of three is Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy, and Tom Hanks.
Right.
I forgot. There is one other person.
Are you talking
Jason
about three
Robards.
or two?
Two in a row.
Two in a row. What's her name? I thought Hilary Swank won 2 in a row.
Not 2 in a row. She won 2, but didn't win 2 in a row.
Okay.
I forgot actually about Jason Robards too. So that's a fourth person. But he did one. But again, he won for both supporting performances, no leading performances. So it would be kind of a big deal if she won. And she's also very young. I mean, she's like 23.
Yeah.
Incredibly young.
Yeah, very young.
So I think that, and I don't know that there's a lot of sentiment that she needs it, which is what then you come down to. You say you'd be surprised if Lupita wins. Well, if we take out Julia and Sally is not being really like much buzzed about, and we have this remarkable thing that Jennifer Lawrence would win, being unlikely, then it's either Lupita or June, and then you've got to say, well, then June is the hands down winner and Lupita can't win. Well, no, I think Lupita has a good chance.
Supporting actor.
Supporting actor. Who knows with supporting actress? It's a toss-up. I think supporting actor is definitely shoe-in. We know who's going to win.
Yeah, well, let's go through the nominees real quick. They are...
Can you say his name? From Captain Phillips?
Barkhad Abdi from Captain Phillips.
Oh, you go, Arnold.
Bradley Cooper from American Hustle. Jonah Hill from The Wolf of Wall Street, Michael Fassbender from 12 Years a Slave, and the one who we're talking about, everyone knows is going to win, is Jared Leto from the Dallas Buyers Club.
And I'm sorry, I think he should.
Well,
he should and he will.
I think the thing that made his performance remarkable and why people will remember it is because here's this guy playing a transgender character, and then at one point in the movie he has to go back to beg money from his father, and he puts on men's clothes, and he has to look uncomfortable dressed as a man and look like he doesn't know how to act like a man. And so
he pulled it off.
And he pulls it off. It's one thing to say, oh, well, you did a great job dressing and acting like a woman. It's another to say, wow, you did a good job pretending to be being a gay guy, pretending to be a straight guy.
Now,
although, if you saw him at the Independent Spirit Awards yesterday, he was wearing a skirt, so maybe, he does kind of like wearing women's clothes, who knows.
Well, let's talk about Dallas Buyers Club a little bit.
Sure,
Of course, it's nominated for Best Actor also, we'll get to that. But it's come under some controversy for different reasons. It wasn't accurate as, exactly as the events happened, and he has gotten some stuff from certain people in the transgender community who didn't like his performance, and there's just a scathing article the other day that compared Jared Leto's performance to Hattie McDaniel's performance when she became the first African American to win an Academy Award, and how we look back at that and cringe because she played a mammy.
Okay, I look back at Going with the Wind, which I saw about 2 weeks ago, and I do not cringe. I think Hattie McDaniel was so damn brilliant in that movie.
Well, I think
she was so good, and she spoke her mind. Now, was she playing a maid? Yes. Why? Or even a slave? Well, because it was set in the American South before 1860, so maybe some people will be slaves. I mean, no one says, how dared they cast Chiwetel Ejiofor, a black, as a slave? It's just so typical. It's like, well, that was kind of the point. You'd been more upset if they had cast Tom Hanks.
But why
on the Northup.
But why do you think such scathing criticism with Jared Leto?
I have no idea. I think sometimes in the community, the gay community, we obsess about people's personal orientation when we shouldn't. Certainly, there are gay actors who are good, and you can say, well, we couldn't find any gay or trans actors who were good enough to do that role. But the fact is, as Jared Leto said himself when he was criticized for it, if you want to say that only a trans person could play that role, then you have to say that that's all that trans actors should be allowed to play.
Exactly.
But you want them to play other things. We don't mind a show like Will and Grace where Eric McCormack is straight playing gay, but Sean Hayes is gay playing gay. or for that matter,
Or at the time,
Megan-
closeted gay.
Yeah,
gay.
but
or for
gay
that matter-
nonetheless.
or for that matter, Megan Mullally playing straight, who's actually bisexual in real life, and nobody, you can't not care about that. I mean, we're all so proud of Neil Patrick Harris playing a womanizer on television while he's a two daddy family parent in real life. Then if we're going to praise people for accepting that, we have to praise people for having the it's not even the courage, I don't think it's the courage, but having the commitment to do the role the right way. Could very easily be a trashy role.
They always say the courage. There's no courage, that's acting. It's
Right.
called acting.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It wasn't courage, but you have to admire the ability to play the role in a sympathetic and sometimes unsympathetic role in that movie. I mean, he's a drug addict and he's a bit of a slut, and
It's
What's
not
wrong
a
with
pretty
sluts?
picture, but that's the point of it.
What's wrong with sluts?
hey,
Hey,
but
As we said in the last election, sluts vote.
and the funny thing too about Dallas Buyers Club is I wrote a story in the Dallas Voice when the movie came out, in which I said a lot of the facts are wrong, and it's not even like I had Deep Throat who was able to tell me all the tiny little facts that they got wrong but didn't want to go on the record. You can look at the movie and see everything they get wrong. My favorite is Jennifer Garner is drinking wine, and it's a bottle of cupcake wine, which has been around for like 5 years. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to just go and get something other than a brand new bottle of wine.
well, the
That's something
fact
in the
that
90s.
Jennifer Garner's character was there at all is
Well, exactly. And Jennifer Garner was played by a woman, even though the person she represented was a man. They never mentioned Parkland Hospital by name, even though it looked like Parkland
do you
Hospital.
know
They never
was-
mentioned Glaxo Wellcome as the producers of AZT, and and when they're making all those kind of changes, it's obvious. And so, but my article was all about how, despite that, even people like Stephen Pounders, who was Ron Woodruff's personal physician, had no problem being cast as a woman in the
It was
movie.
Jennifer Garner.
It was Jennifer Garner. And because it did such a good job of portraying the time, and I'd said in my article that Ron Woodruff wasn't homophobic, that he was in fact at a minimum bisexual, that he and the screenwriter has gone around defending every single line of dialogue as being like given to him by God through through the Bible.
All of a sudden, the screenwriter has spoken to Ron Woodruff, spent weeks with him or something.
3 days.
Three
Yeah.
days, whatever.
Well, that's the thing is he was trying to write a movie. It's like, well, if you got everything right, where is Ron Woodruff's wife?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was married at one point, and there's not even and had a child. And there's
That's not even a mention of that.
So, but the funny thing is, nobody who had anything to deal with the actual people cared. Nobody, not that I talked to.
Well,
But because the screenwriter was going around saying everything was absolutely verifiable fact, and it wasn't, now there's this backlash against the movie. How much do they make up?
Well, and this isn't the first time that a movie's come under criticism for all kinds of different political reasons. Do you think that'll hurt his chances at the Oscars?
I don't think it'll hurt Leto's chances or McConaughey's chances. I don't think that the movie itself was ever a front runner for Best Picture. And I don't think it was ever a front runner for Best Original Screenplay, although it might win that. I think this probably did. I don't think it will win Best Screenplay. I didn't think it would. But if it did have a chance, I think this probably hurt it.
You know, some of the little things in it, like when they call Parkland Hospital Mercy Hospital, and I just literally burst out laughing at that point in the movie.
Well, we talked about how at one point they give an address for something, and it actually says Oak Lawn Avenue, but the actual address doesn't exist.
Right.
You know.
And the New Orleans skyline.
The New Orleans skyline. Well, the Roundup is this seedy bar with a backdoor entrance and very cramped dance floor. It's like, nah.
You know, so all those little things. Now, it's just Dallas who would notice those things.
Right.
But for a whole city, you know, the fourth largest market in the country, to look at this movie and go, I didn't like the
But
movie
it was
until...
also set 20 years ago, and people look at we see lots of movies during the Cold War set in Moscow that were filmed in Helsinki.
Yeah, and that's true, but I-10 just doesn't cross over Cedar Springs Road.
Well, let's go to now that we're talking about Matthew McConaughey. Let's go and jump into that category, Best Actor.
Yeah. Well, the nominees again for this are it was an interesting thing because the actual nominees are Christian Bale for American Hustle, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Wolf of Wall Street, Matthew McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club,
Chiwetel
Ejiofor for 12 Years a Slave,
and Bruce Dern
for Nebraska. The list should also include Joaquin Phoenix for Her, Tom Hanks for Captain Phillips, Robert Redford for All Is Lost, Idris Elba for
Freedom,
Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, Michael B. Jordan for Fruitvale Station, and it just
this is a really tough category.
It was so tough. There was literally, I said that any of the 10 or 11 names that were on that initial short list, everybody was going to have a complaint about someone getting kicked off, but nobody would be able to say, oh, who should have been kicked off. I think the consensus is that Christian Bale was the odd man out, that he, quote-unquote, stole Robert Redford's nomination, perhaps. The fact that...
now, Robert Redford was nominated for the Golden Globe, which...
No, he wasn't, I don't think. Was he?
He was.
The
He didn't
Independent
win.
Spirit Award, but...
No, Golden Globe. He was
Okay.
nominated, but he didn't win. But that's usually kind of a precursor, not always, to the Oscars.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
It's always hard to say, but he didn't win the Golden
No.
Globe.
Has he ever
so-
won?
Oh, yeah, well, Robert Redford has an Oscar. Actually, he has 2 Oscars, but neither for acting. One for directing the Ordinary People, and one for he has the Thalberg Award, which is the award they give for a filmmaker, whether director, producer, usually kind of a producer award, but for a body of work doing serious things.
Okay, who should and will win?
But that's the thing is I think that everybody figured the short list was going to be Matthew McConaughey and Bruce Dern. So I think those are the only 2 that are really in play.
What about Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio,
I think he might be a surprise winner.
Could be the absolute spoiler. The problem with Leo winning, the possible problem with Leo winning, is that the film itself has been well received by a lot of people, but criticized by a lot of people, about glorifying the whole idea of the 90s excess as exemplified by his character. So it's easy to attack either the screenwriter, the producer, who is also Leonardo DiCaprio, the actor, or the director. And I think that might overall just kind of hurt its chances. I don't really see The Wolf of Wall Street winning anything, although it was a great movie and far better than American Hustle, which got twice as many nominations. In fact, Matthew McConaughey does a great job in
That's right, he's in that too. Yeah.
And that's another thing. We were talking about how you win an Oscar earlier, and I was saying I don't think you have to know, that this person, he lost 50 pounds. But I think when you do say, wow, it wasn't just that he was good in Dallas Buyers Club, it's that he was good in Mud, and that he was good in that cameo in Wolf of Wall Street, and that he's on TV show in True Detective right now. And we just love Matthew McConaughey right now.
Well, but the thing is also, for all the criticism of Dallas Buyers Club, he wasn't homophobic. He, the setting was odd. He was a dead ringer for
Ron Woodruff.
For Ron Woodruff, and apparently he did a lot of research. Went to UNT, found a diary that Ron had kept.
Yeah.
That had been at Resource Center here, that had been donated up to UNT.
Yeah, that was in the interview that I did.
And used that in his portrayal.
Yeah.
Not every actor does that kind of work for.
Well, what's really
for a
remarkable
film.
too is he was on this movie for a long time, but Jared Leto was hired
Last minute,
yeah. and he himself lost weight.
But he lost a lot of weight also.
Yeah, but he had a very short period of time to do it, and they all did it for pittance. I think the budget for the movie was like $5 million. It was
very little.
It was very little. Even at $5 million, they could have bought a different brand of wine than Cupcake.
And they could have filmed it on Cedar Springs instead of on Canal Street.
Well, apparently they could.
Easily.
I think Dallas Buyers Club is this year's. Oh God! It's with that budget, it's pretty much an indie film.
Oh, it's definitely an indie film. That's
You
what it was
know.
nominated for and won several Independent Spirit Awards. In fact, an interesting thing is the Independent Spirit Awards were last night. They do not mirror the Oscars because, for example, Gravity isn't eligible for an Independent Spirit Award because it's not an independent movie. It's a very big budget Hollywood film. But the people who won the best performances last night at the Spirit Awards are almost certainly going to win the Oscars in the same categories this tonight.
And you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with lots of people who gained weight to appear here today. The late Patti Fink, Lerone Landis, and our guest Arnold Wayne Jones will be back with more right after this.
KNON thanks you for your pledge to our recent pledge drive. Now is the time to make your pledge count. Be sure to send it in to KNON 5353 Maple Avenue, Dallas, Texas 75235. If you missed our pledge drive, you can still support community radio by donating online at knon.org. Your pledge only counts if you pay it. KNON 5353 Maple Avenue, Dallas, Texas 75235. Be sure to include the name of the show you're supporting. For questions about the pledge drive, 214-828-9500, extension 234.
This is Janice McCall from TCU, and I listen to the Lambda Week on 89.3 KNON FM, Dallas.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet, and is that thing still on? Yes, it is.
And this is Lambda Weekly, and Dave is talking about the knobs.
Yeah, I'm I'm not used to being back behind the with Josh here, and we're talking the Oscars today. Arnold Wayne Jones is our guest, and
Now let's jump best actress.
Best actress for that category, the nominees are Judi Dench for Philomena, Sandra Bullock for Gravity, Cate Blanchett for Blue Jasmine, Amy Adams for American Hustle,
and Meryl
Streep for August Osage County. And what's interesting about that is I was said before I could list 11 or 12 names of people who could have been Best Actor. There's really only two other names that could have feasibly been. I think everybody thought that Dench, Kate, Meryl, and Sandra were shoo-ins, and so it's like, who's going to be in the fifth spot? And it went to Amy Adams. I think it could have gone to Greta Gerwig from Frances Ha, or Emma Thompson from Saving Mr. Banks. But what's interesting about that particular lineup is every single one of those nominees already has an Oscar, except Amy Adams. Mm-hmm. And what's also interesting is how cross-pollinated all of the actresses in that category are. Meryl and Sandra had a friendly rivalry a couple of years ago when Sandra won for Best Actress for The Blind Side, and Meryl was nominated for Julie and Julia, and they were kind of like pretending to be rivals, but it was very loving, in good humor, and no one was happier for Sandra than Meryl when she won. But Meryl also did Julie and Julia with Amy Adams. She did Doubt with Amy Adams. Cate Blanchett and Judi Dench did Notes on a Scandal together.
That's right. Oh, great movie.
You know, every one of these people has been nominated for an Oscar the same year as Meryl Streep, believe it or not.
I read something not so long ago.
That's hard to do. That's hard not to do.
And Meryl Streep's been nominated every year since like 1950-something.
I read something that said that every time Meryl Streep even reads a script, she gets nominated.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
she's really good, and I'll tell you an interesting thing about the movie August Osage County. I've seen the play several times. I saw it on Broadway with Deanna Dunnigan, who I thought was just brilliant. And in many ways more brilliant than Meryl. But in the opening scene of August Osage County on stage, the character of Violet is kind of off stage. She's in a back room, and she's high and drunk, and she's yelling awful things at her husband, who's downstairs in the spotlight. And in this movie, Meryl actually comes into the room. Her character comes. She's not shouting it from a distance. She comes in. She's on chemotherapy, so her hair is all falling out. She looks like hell. She's mean as crap. And the second I saw her, I said, well, not only is she going to get a nomination, but this is why she's our best film actress, because she is a film actress who performs as if she's a theater actress. Theater actresses have no problem making themselves. They love the noses and the putty faces and the bad wigs that make them look bad, because that's part of the fun of transforming. But but the old line about Hollywood is the actress is always looking for a key light, always, for example, as Julia Roberts' character, oh, we need to soften her at the end, and maybe she'll go back to her mother. And, that's just a cop-out. And Meryl never cops out. She just says, I'll be a bitch, I'll be ugly. And that's why she has 18 Academy Award nominations.
Right. Okay, so who will win, who should win?
I think that I loved Cate Blanchett when I saw Blue Jasmine, even though I thought the film itself was only okay. And I loved Sally Hawkins when I saw Blue Jasmine. And as soon as I saw Philomena, I said, this is going to win Best Actress. But I haven't felt that there's been a real groundswell for Judi Dench. I'm glad all the nominations that the movie got. It got 4, including Best Original or Best Adapted Screenplay, and to me it was the best written movie of 2013.
So Judi Dench should get the...
She should, I think, although I would be happy with Sandra or Meryl. I mean, they were... But I think everybody's pretty much in agreement that Cate Blanchett's the lock for this one. Her movie's been out the longest. People have been praising it nonstop, and she kind of set the bar. That was the thing about Gravity. As soon as I saw Gravity, I said, well, this will win the Best Picture Oscar. I can barely imagine anything better than it. And I never saw anything that was outright better than it, but then you see 12 Years a Slave a month later, and you're like, wow, that's just as good. And so then the question becomes, do you split the baby and go with Best Picture for one and Best Director for the other?
Yeah, science fiction doesn't generally...
It doesn't win Best Picture very often. Yeah, it really hasn't historically. And it was an excellent movie, but 12 Years a Slave had so many other things. I want to mention something else, too. I said very early on, I didn't get it 100% right, but I said very early on that the best cinematography nominees this year were all going to be great. And they were. This was a year for beautiful movies. The black and white photography of Nebraska, which can seem very coy and self-indulgent in movies, it was so gorgeous and so evocative of what that movie was about. It's easily Alexander Payne's best movie. And the lighting in a movie like Gravity, what they do in Gravity, the outer space stuff. There were and inside Llewyn Davis with all the smoky rooms and clubs and interiors and then exteriors that are foggy. It was just a great year to look at movies. It was a really terrific year. I mean, I have no complaints about 2013 as a year of quality films, and I'm glad it's doing so well.
All right, well, we're just going to jump over to the news just for a little bit. I guess I'm legal now. Danny and I are legal.
Well,
sort of.
We've been
stayed.
I don't know what I would ever consider what you two do legal. But.
The Texas, a district judge has ruled Texas's ban on gay marriage
as federal U.S. district judge
as unconstitutional. So, I mean, I knew it would happen. I was just surprised it happened this soon.
Oh, I'm not. I thought it would actually come sooner.
We have 3 cases going in Texas, and since the Windsor decision last June that struck down the Defense of Marriage Act,
this is the 6th.
Yeah, one judge after another is finding, well, if it's not legal on a federal level, how is it legal on a statewide level?
Well, and significantly, I think, in this particular case, the ruling affects not only the constitutional amendment that was Prop 2 in 2005, but also the Superdoma law that exists on the books. So it's ruled unconstitutional in both sets. Right. So it's not just one. One will not survive.
And I was talking to Ken Upton, who's the senior staff attorney at Lambda Legal, and Ken. I said, is there something different about this opinion? And he said, no, not really. So it echoes the other 6 opinions. I said, are the southern and red state judges who are overturning these laws citing one thing as opposed to, like in Hawaii, in that case, are they citing something different? And he said, no, not really. He said it's just... They're just not able to find that marginalizing one class of people because you don't like them is constitutional.
Well, it's sort of like one of the constitutional provisions is a ban against cruel and unusual punishment. And in 1770, what was cruel and unusual, they didn't have electric chairs in they didn't have electricity. So they would never have characterized that as even a reasonable punishment. But mores change, and as the mores themselves change, then our interpretation of what's normative changes, and that changes the constitutionality, which is how it should be.
I don't think so. I think the founders founded a Christian country, and the Constitution we need to observe just the way it was written.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is,
or something like that. I try to parrot the Tea Party.
All the right wingers are absolutely convinced that we have to interpret the Constitution exactly as written, except the part about a well-regulated militia, which they don't like the idea of actually being regulated or having to be a member of a militia in which to carry a firearm.
Right.
And they don't like you to say we should be able to carry rocket-propelled grenade launchers, even though they had front-loading muskets.
They're too heavy. No. They're too heavy. I keep my grenade launchers. I have a separate van for them, and I just pull it behind my truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Another big news item this year concerning us was what happened in Arizona.
Maybe this week.
Yeah, this week. Governor Brewer
No, stop right
Did
there.
not-
I'm not going to let you go any further.
did not sign.
No.
She vetoed the bill, and I
Do
like
not
the piece
give
on
her
it.
any credit.
Oh, I'm not. Believe you me.
just gave her credit by saying she signed the bill. Governor
She
Brewer
vetoed.
had no choice but to do the only thing that a rational person, which she has not shown herself to be rational for most of her political career, to do. Screw her. She didn't do any favors for us.
Oh.
She's a horrible person.
She's vying for an Oscar.
Yeah, because she was definitely acting. Most definitely.
She's acting like a sane person.
Yeah.
Well, she did it for completely economic reasons. If they had said, if American Airlines and Marriott had said, we hope you sign this because we want to
Or the NFL.
only be here and we hate gay people too.
And
she
actually,
would have signed
NFL
it before the ink was dry on the bill.
The NFL was threatening to pull the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, and actually, that's who the heroes are in the story. All of these businesses who stepped up and says something.
But when the NFL becomes the moral arbiter,
not the
Not her.
politicians.
and they're the ones that have the right moral position. Wow.
Wow. Here's the thing
Who'd
about
have thunk it?
when you think of me anyway, when you think of like extreme red state, I just don't think of Arizona. I mean, I know it's a red state, but
It's not.
They have a
extreme.
history.
I've always thought it was kind of somewhat
It is,
moderate.
it is.
But no, they
Now-
have a history of being strangely extremist because they lost the Super Bowl 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when they refused to acknowledge
just,
Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, they did.
And so it was
You're right.
pulled
It's the
from
only
them in
state
1983,
Last vote.
and then they didn't get the Super Bowl back until 86. I mean, these people are strange. And one of the things is, the thing that drives me crazy about when people say, oh, we're a Western state where we believe live and let live. It's like, well, no, and then you pass these kinds of draconian get into your bedroom laws. Nothing bothers me more, Republicans, or right-wing Republicans at least, are never happier than saying we want little government and you should be able to pick your doctor, with the asterisk, unless you want an abortion doctor, and then we want to know exactly what he's required to say to you during every office visit.
Exactly.
And it's like, what about my ability to have my own conversation with my doctor? No. We believe in absolute freedom of choice unless it's a choice that we don't agree with. And
And in the bedroom too.
and in the bedroom.
too.
We think the government should get out of your health care and into your bed. It's extremely disturbing, and you're right. The fact that that the NFL is on the side of gay rights is what's remarkable. And what's going to change a lot of Republicans, including people like Jan Brewer, if not their hearts and souls, their veto pens, is the fact that the Fortune 500 companies don't want to be on this. I mean, I was listening to This Week with George Stephanopoulos this morning, and there was a guy saying, no, but the rule would just prevent florists from having to do things, and all I think of is, what is your obsession with gay weddings when they're not even legal in Arizona? The fact is, what you don't want is Marriott to say, we have a 100% rating from HRC. You call up their 800 reservation line, you say, I want to stay at the Biltmore in Arizona in the bridal suite because my partner and I have just gotten married in New Mexico, and then you get in there at midnight, and the 19-year-old desk clerk says, why are two men checking into the bridal suite? I'm not going to allow you into the hotel. I'm canceling your reservation, and I cannot be fired for doing that because I'm doing it based on my religious beliefs.
And that's what Patty and I were kind of bouncing back and forth this morning. The coverage of this was, I wanted to scream at the TV. Nobody was really countering what this bill really would do.
What's terrible
just kept
is
bringing
there are
up
10
the
other
florist.
states that have these laws in some state of proposal.
Yeah, but Georgia sure pulled theirs back.
Well,
the next day after the veto.
Idaho did too. Kansas had already pulled theirs back, but there are 7 or 8 others. Alabama, a couple of other states have these that are still going on. What's interesting is each one
Mississippi, which is too bad because the official motto of Alabama for years has been, at least we're not Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd think that Mississippi would like the opportunity to say, Mississippi, can you believe those dummies in Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just mimic them.
But it's real interesting the difference between these laws. You know, usually when these laws come along, it's cookie cutter, one state after the other. They're all different. Every fringe lunatic came out. The Idaho law was the best. If you're a doctor, you could put up a no gays allowed sign. Now, that's completely against the ethics of the AMA, and you could lose your license for it. So there was a provision for it in the Idaho law. I mean, it was lunacy what they're proposing.
Well, and the one in
some of these
Kansas
things.
would say that public employees, police, firefighters, EMS, paramedics, public employees, doctors, nurses at public hospitals, like at Parkland, could say, I don't agree with you, so I'm not going to treat you. Your house can burn down.
That's what I meant. It wasn't being countered right on the news for me. No one was saying what this could actually do. They were just talking about, the florist and the weddings, wedding cakes, and it's like, okay.
And I love the wedding photographer who might be forced to do an all nude wedding.
Yeah,
It's like, who's going to have an all-new wedding?
Who's going to have an all-new wedding?
Crazy straight people. That's who.
Exactly. But who's to if the law were to pass, who's to stop us from going to just a grocery store like Walmart? I want a wedding cake or whatever, and the little person
who buys a wedding cake
Lerone.
at Walmart.
What gay couple?
Who shops at Walmart?
What gay couple is going to Walmart for their wedding cake? Lerone.
I did not. I'm joking.
I was at your wedding.
So you two were at my wedding. I can't lie. So, but my point is, somebody there could be like, yeah, I don't want to do your cake. Bye.
Exactly.
Right. What's worse is someone could agree to do the cake. You could pay the thing. You could come to pick it up on the day, and the cashier could say, "I'm not handing you the cake because I don't think you should be allowed to say." And then you're screwed. People say, "Oh, you can just go to another florist. You can just go to another wedding cake." Well, not an hour before the ceremony. If some 15-year-old right-wing
Well, so just go to a
kook.
different supermarket and pick up another cake. Right. That's not going to.
It's the same.
I want to go on because we only have 2 more minutes. The resolution. We need people at City Hall.
We do, at Wednesday morning at 9 a.m.
But we're not advocating. We're just giving the information.
Just giving the information. If you'd like to be at City Hall when the vote takes place at Dallas City Hall by Dallas City Council, you can be down at 1500 Marilla downtown.
It's a resolution that they're voting on that will allow city staff, and some of it has to be voted on by the City Council, to equalize benefits. Equalize pension, equalize health benefits, like
there are
gay
some
people.
inequities, and it allows the city staff and
to
the
just
city
straighten these
manager
out.
are directed to look into it to see what it would take to bring those into up to equality. Yeah.
And one other thing, yesterday was George and Jack's wedding.
Yes.
George and Jack have been on our show. They've been together for 53 years. The minister who did the wedding is a Methodist minister. He's 85 years old. He just went through chemotherapy on Wednesday and officiated at the wedding. He sounded great, but he sat through the service. But he sounded great, and I spoke to him afterwards, and I mean, he was just, he said, said, one thing I want you to do is I want you to correct, I was not a willing participant in, or I was not I didn't just do it, how was it worded? He said, I was there because I wanted to do it. You know, I wasn't just pushed along to do this. And he said, I want that clear. So,
and it was Bill McIlvaney, because some of the stations had him as completely different. I'm like, if you're in an act of rebellion, you should at least get credit for your act of rebellion, right? Not be misnamed as somebody else.
Now, the horrible thing that Channel 11 did, and we need to go, but they put a counterpoint using Robert Jeffress, and they did it twice.
Why do you need a counterpoint?
Why do you need
And
a
why do you
Baptist?
need Robert Jeffress
Why do you
to
need
do the
a
job?
Baptist criticizing the Methodists? I mean, you just don't do that. Anyway, that's all for us on Lambda Weekly. We'll be back next week with.
Thanks, Arnold.
Thank you.
Thanks.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.